Hello and welcome back to Film Exaggeration. Well, it's November 5th, and you know what that means. Time for a remake of a long-lost video. Now, if you go back on this channel, you'll see that my very first film exaggeration was on The Dark Knight, but actually that was second. A few months earlier, when I was still doing reviews of movies in theaters and also Korra, I did actually make my very first film exaggeration on 2006's V for Vendetta. It couldn't make it on YouTube at the time, so I put it on Blip. Well, a year and a half later, my Blip channel was terminated because of stupid business decisions that would lead to the site's demise, and my dumbass, despite having a month warning to download all my videos, for some reason didn't, and some of them were lost. Like the original Feeling Pinky Keen video, reviews for Tremors 2 and 3, and of course, V for Vendetta. The files I either deleted or are stuck on my first laptop that doesn't turn on anymore, and I had less than 100 subscribers at the time, so it is possible that someone downloaded it, but unlikely. I mean, it wasn't a huge loss, like most of my early videos. It was pretty shitty. So let's review it again, but this time the review might actually be good. V for Vendetta was released in March 2006, directed by James McTeed and written by the Wachowskis, most famous for the Matrix movies. It's based on the graphic novel written by Alan Moore, seen here looking exactly like how I expected him to look after reading the graphic novel, and apparently he didn't like the movie, at least that's what I read. Maybe he pulled a Stephen King and has more positive things to say now, but no matter what he thinks, it did get pretty good reviews, and it's even on the IMDb Top 250. But does it hold up? Is there a place for V for Vendetta in 2020? Well, by the time you're watching this, the election will have already happened, but at the time I'm filming, I have no idea who won, so let's just review the movie. The movie is set in Britain in the year 2032, where a neo-fascist government ruled by a tyrannical leader is taken over. Yeah, I can see that happening in 12 years. Also, the United States is apparently in even worse shape.
20 years later is what? The world's biggest leper colony. Why? Godlessness.
No, of all the things wrong with the United States, godlessness is not one of them.
Immigrants, Muslims, homosexuals, terrorists, disease-ridden degenerates.
Holy shit, I was kidding earlier, but I think this guy might actually be Nigel Farage.
That's quite enough of that, thank you very much.
If you don't like it, why were you watching it? Do you just enjoy watching stuff that'll piss you off? Huh. This is Evey, played by Natalie Portman, who has to go to an appointment but finds herself outside after a government-issued curfew. She's surrounded by a few large men with the cockiest accents since Bert and Mary Poppins, who turn out to be part of the government. But thankfully she is saved by a man in a Guy Fawkes mask.
We're off to blame in this 'tis too much proved that with devotion's visage and pious action we do sugar o'er the devil himself.
Well, he has the style of a pretentious anarchist, but the vocabulary of a pretentious libertarian, so we'll call him, Anarcharian?
Verily, this vichyssoise of verbiage veers most verbose, so let me simply add that it's my very good honor to meet you, and you may call me V.
Are you like a crazy person?
That line reading is one of my favorites of all time. This man is V, played by Hugo Weaving. He asks her to join him for an orchestral show, which for some reason is taking place on a roof. But as soon as it hits midnight and turns from November 4th to November 5th, this happens.
Wait! Here comes the crescendo!
That was so fucking cool. I'm not even questioning how he managed to get all those explosives in there. I mean, that would have taken days! Well, the High Chancellor, Adam Sutler, played by John Hurt, is not happy about this, and oh my god, I love how unsubtle it is with these henchmen. Everything is black, they're in pitch darkness. How do you work in these conditions? By the way, in the graphic novel, he's actually named Chancellor Susan. Susan. Anyway, he bans the 1812 Overture, which, to be fair, does mean that Dennis Prager wouldn't support this guy given his hard-on for the classics. They come up with an excuse for the explosion, saying it was an emergency demolition, and you know, 8.5 years ago, I thought it was stupid that people believed that, but with how much stupid bullshit people believe now, I can totally buy it. Speaking of fake news, Evey works for that state-run news network BTN. What was wrong with keeping it the BBC?
I love it. A cow getting crucified. It's hysterical.
Wait, what?
A cow getting crucified. It's hysterical.
Okay, I need to hear the rest of that story. This is Mr. Dietrich, played by Stephen Fry, who hosts a show for BTN. Spoiler alert, he's also gay. Inspector Finch, played by Stephen Ray, finds out Evey was with V through surveillance footage and heads to her work to arrest her. Evey delivers a bunch of boxes to what I assume is preparations for some kind of orgy. Natalie Portman is hotter than all these women, yet she's delivering packages? Anyway, the boxes are filled with Guy Fawkes masks, and if you're wondering who Guy Fawkes was, he was a man who on November 5th, 1605, tried to blow a parliament but failed because even back then, terrorists were stupid.
This looks serious. Her parents were political activists.
Damn Antifa, I knew those milkshakes would lead to trouble. But before Finch can get there, V arrives with a bomb strapped to his chest and forces himself in the newsroom and delivers a message.
Words offer the means to meaning, and for those who will listen, the enunciation of truth. And the truth is, there is something terribly wrong with this country. I know why you did it. I know you were afraid. Who wouldn't be? War, terror, disease. There were a myriad of problems which conspired to corrupt your reason and rob you of your common sense.
As great as this scene is, it does show its age by showing it on TV. I mean, you could see people saying similar shit all over YouTube today. He tells them that 1 year from now to meet him outside Parliament, and when the police break in, V manages to escape. In the most badass way ever. He is nearly caught, but Evey manages to save him. But she's knocked out and V takes her to his hideout. The media makes it seem as if V was killed, but it doesn't seem people believe them. Of course, the next day they'll be saying how much we should trust the media and it's awful that a terrorist tried to kill an innocent journalist.
I have to stay here.
Only until I'm done. After the 5th, I no longer think it'll matter.
I have to stay here for a year.
Just start doing internet reviews. The year will fly by so fast that you'll get to November and be like, oh shit, I gotta do the V for Vendetta review. I don't know why V in that flowery apron is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Now, would you care for a cup of tea with your egg?
God, I haven't had real butter since I was a little girl.
Why does my heart suddenly feel like it's on fire? Oh my god, I'm died.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
God, I fucking love that line, and it just gets more relevant each year.
Alone, a symbol is meaningless, but with enough people, blowing up a building can change the world.
Okay, dude, I'm all for your cause, but given that this came out 11 years after this, 5 years after this, and less than a year after this, maybe saying blowing up shit is good isn't great. Anyway, he kills the Tucker Carlson of this movie's world, Louis Perthero.
The loss of the Voice of London could be devastating to our credibility. Perhaps a stroke, a quiet, dignified death in his sleep.
You people suck at propaganda. Oh, a newscaster dies shortly after a terrorist invades the TV station he works for, and we're supposed to just accept him dying in his sleep? I believe that as much as I believe Epstein. Nope, I'm not bringing that back. I do like the morally gray area that comes up between V and Evey, where he wants to kill those he deems evil, while Evey thinks that murdering is wrong. We learn more about Evey's past as it turns out her brother died, and her parents became activists when she was young. Given how she looks, and the fact that Portman was like 24 at the time, this fascist government managed to take over to the point of complete totalitarian control in just 20 years. Come on, kid, show a little fear. Evey becomes V's co-conspirator and she sets her up for a job. Turns out the job involves a Catholic bishop, and hey, is that Stephen Miller? Anyway, her job is to seduce this bishop.
They've sent a new girl who I'm afraid is a little older than usual.
Older? Oh dear, she's not too old, I trust.
Because Catholic bishops be molestin'. God, she looks like she belongs in a bad 80s video.
Tell me your sins.
Ew. She tells him about V, but he tries to rape her because Catholic bishops be raping. She escapes, but V kills the bishop. Evey heads to Dietrich's house and he hides her, and he takes her to his secret room. Okay, dude, that's just a bad way to get into your secret room. The first thing the police are going to go for is the wine. Inside, he has anti-sutler art, a Quran, because let's not forget, the first one fascists go for are the Muslims, and gay porn.
You see, we're both fugitives in our own way.
Well, since they're fascists, they're more likely to get in trouble for just having porn at all. Fascists hate porn. Stop supporting fascists. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention that Finch has been hunting them down this whole time, and found out that everyone V has killed was employed in an internment camp, and there's only one left. Someone named Dr. Surridge. But they're too late.
You're going to kill me now.
I killed you 10 minutes ago. While you slept.
Is it meaningless to apologize?
Never.
I'm so sorry.
Of course course, the woman gets redemption and a painless death while the men get ruthlessly slaughtered. Yeah, that's female privilege.
What a strange coincidence that I should be given one today.
There are no coincidences, Delia.
Is it possible that there are no coincidences?
So yeah, these people basically started a concentration camp for the undesirables, but eventually a fire destroyed it, set by a man in room 5. But it's in Roman numbers, so it's a V. Get it? Finch begins to suspect that Sutler was responsible for a series of deaths that have happened through the years, but it may be too late for Dietrich as he makes a comedy skit for his show that I think predicted every SNL skit about Trump that was ever made. Man, for an old guy, you got a pretty firm grip. Well, as you can expect, it doesn't go well for Dietrich. Interesting fact, this is what Trump dreams about doing to Stephen Colbert every single night. Evey is captured and taken to a prison.
You've been formally charged with 3 counts of murder, the bombing of government property, conspiracy to commit terrorism, treason, and sedition, the penalty for which is death by firing squad. You have one chance, and only one chance, to save your life. You must tell us the identity, or whereabouts, of Codename V.
He's in the London Underground and Dietrich says keep pouring by his wine cabinet, don't kill me! No, she refuses to give up the info and is shaved bald, which, let's not lie, Portman is still hot with a shaved head. And imprisoned, tortured, and starved. She only manages to find comfort in a letter she finds in her cell. This is possibly my favorite part of the movie. It's sweet and heartbreaking and I don't want to spoil a thing. If you take nothing else from this review, please watch it for this scene alone. But anyway, it turns out that the people who imprisoned Evey is actually V, using fake masks and impressions to fool her. You know, if things had turned out different, V could have made a killing on Broadway. Thankfully, Evey is forgiving for the weeks of physical and psychological abuse. While I'm sure it's not what they intended, it basically is saying abuse is good if it can help the person become a stronger human being. We don't tolerate that anywhere else. We shouldn't even when fighting fascism.
V. I'm leaving.
Good for you, Evey. You don't have to take that kind of abuse. Just leave the bastard. Well, she does promise to be back by November 5th. Before we move on, can I just say how good Hugo Weaving is? I mean, not just in his vocal delivery, but the fact that we don't see his face and we're able to tell what emotion he is feeling based on his body language is outstanding.
A separate report has been filed suggesting a train, despite the fact that the tunnels surrounding Parliament have been sealed shut.
Who filed that report?
Chief Inspector Finch.
Do you have any evidence to support this conclusion, Mr. Finch?
No, sir. Just a feeling.
If I am sure of anything, Inspector Finch, it is that this government will not survive if it is to be subject to your feelings.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
By the way, what the hell is Evey doing? Like, she's a wanted terrorist, she obviously can't go home or get a job. How is she surviving? Finch learns more about Sutler's past.
He's completely single-minded and has no regard for the political process. The more power he attains, the more obvious his zealotry, and the more aggressive his supporters become.
It's amazing how he could be talking about Trump or Bernie in that sentence. Anyway, Sutler created a new kind of bioweapon and poisoned his own people, killing over 100,000, blaming terrorists, allowing him to become chancellor. Insert Syrian joke here, as the country begins to turn on the government in which, hey, the Libertarian Party might have a shot this year, or whatever the British equivalent is. The Postage delivers a bunch of Guy Fawkes masks to citizens, which, not sure how that was allowed to pass.
This is exactly what he wants.
What?
Anarchy in the UK!
Not yet, dude, but give a few more years. This movie is so fucking cool. The direction, the editing, the music, like there's no other way to describe it than just cool. Also, V, good job on those dominoes, but Will Smith and Collateral Beauty still as you beat. Anyway, as the 5th draws close, Evey returns.
May I inquire as to how you've avoided detection?
A fake ID works better than a Guy Fawkes mask.
Yeah, I still have several questions.
And a friend, someone I'd worked with at the BTN, got in line behind me. She looked at me right in the eyes. Didn't recognize me. I guess whatever you did to me worked better than I'd have imagined.
No, it just means you have shitty friends.
Would you dance with me?
On the eve of your revolution.
Oh, revolution without dancing is a revolution not worth having.
True. V shows her a train filled with explosives that will be used to blow up Parliament. Seriously, where does he get this stuff? I mean, I assume he steals it, but transporting it would be a fucking nightmare. V gives Evey control starting the train as he heads off for his final stand. Due to complex shit that's not worth going into, Sutler is killed, and then maybe because this asshole couldn't just quit while he was ahead, V lays down some vengeance.
You're like me.
The only thing that you and I have in common, Mr. Creedy, is we're both about to die.
God, that's an awesome line. So this is a Wachowski script. We sure this isn't a Matrix movie? God, this movie is so fucking cool. Unfortunately, despite living through that, V's wounds are too much and he dies. Rest in peace, you brave man who, if he actually existed, we would absolutely hate because don't forget he's a terrorist. People flood outside Parliament as Evey puts V's body in the train and blows up Parliament.
That music.
Yes. His music.
Now we have no government and no backup plan on how to run the country. We really didn't think this through.
Who was he?
He was Edmund Dantes. And he was my father. And my mother. He was you. And me. He was all of us.
This movie is so fucking awesome. I think it's actually better than people say. This is my favorite comic book movie of all time. Yep, not The Dark Knight or Spider-Verse or even The Avengers. I love everything about this movie. I love the two leads. I love the way it's directed and edited. I love the music. I love the story. I love how it satirizes fascist dictatorships. I love that we never see V's face. It's a subtle way of proving that V's message is more important than one man. It's funny, sad, exciting, and gives a sense of optimism all at the same time. And while I'm sure I'll get plenty of disagreements, I think this is better than the graphic novel. While that was more supportive of just complete anarchy, this seems to support democracy and not letting government get too powerful. I love this film, and even though it's almost 15 years old, it isn't dated at all. The themes are still relevant to this day. There's a ton I didn't show you, so if you haven't seen this masterpiece yet, please give it a watch. And, well, whoever won the election, we're quite a ways away from this, so thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.